It is Tuesday, September 10th, as we move our way into week 2 of the NFL season and week number 4 or 3, depending on who you ask, of the college football season. Major League Baseball, we're less than 3 weeks away from the conclusion of the season, even though the National League East is already put on ice by the Philadelphia Phillies. No Mac tonight, he's on assignment. TJ's also on assignment, and he's not on assignment at flight school trying to land aircrafts with Joshua Dobbs. But he's in the house tonight. What is going on, brother?
Well, it's just one of those things, man. You got to do what you got to do. So hopefully I don't catch any airport crosstalk down here.
Yeah, I mean, because you are not far from an airport down there. So
yeah, I think I just heard. Did I just hear a niner?
Niner. Z-plane. We got a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. We're going to start tonight in a minute here with baseball, but it's funny as we get into this time of the year, T, when we see all kinds of stuff, start to trickle its way. And, we don't think about it, but we're not that far from puck drop in the NHL. We're not that far from training camp in the NBA, college basketball, and you just, this is my favorite time of the year to scour through the headlines, especially on a Tuesday and Wednesday, because, you see some random stuff. I don't know where to start with some of this stuff. We've got the Clippers situation and fake companies and Kawhi Leonard now being paid to no-show at 2 different jobs. We've got 3 men's basketball players banned by the NCAA over gambling violations because nobody saw that coming. Rick Pitino loses an assistant to the New York Knicks. The 49ers just keep rolling through injury news. It is most likely going to be Mac Jones and Spencer Rattler on Sunday at the Superdome with Brock Purdy out for a few weeks. Man, I have no idea what is in the water in Santa Clara, but they need new water.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if it happens once, or like if it happens over the course of one season, it's a fluke thing, right? But if it starts to happen over 2 and 3 seasons, that's a huge problem that needs to be evaluated by not only the coaching staff, but the management of the team. I mean, if you're just going to roll people out there who are injured or who are going to get injured often and early, that's not good. That's not good for your product. That's not good for your brand. And it's definitely not good for your assets.
Yeah, and as we talked about on last night's program, I mean, George Kittle is headed to IR. October 12th is going to be the earliest he's going to be coming back. It sounds like the toe is more of the issue with Purdy, and right now it's just multiple weeks. The Niners brought in their new kicker, as we talked about yesterday, Eddie Pinheiro. Kyle Shanahan, when asked about it today in releasing Jake Moody, the quote that's going out there and being forced in front of everybody was that it wasn't a hard decision to make. Again, I remind everybody, and we talk about this all the time, context is also important. Also, in that same question answer portion of the program in Santa Clara today, Kyle Shanahan talked about a kicker that he gave up on too early when they were in Washington, who went on to have a really good career, and that was part of the reason why they held on to Jake Moody as long as they did. And who knows, Jake Moody could get it figured out. Some people pointing to his high ankle sprain on a special teams tackle, and he was never the same after that. But you know this, and anybody that's watching knows this, and feel free to comment along if you're watching along, but I mean, being a kicker, it's like our idiot kicker, you have one damn job, put the ball through the 2 poles, but it's might be the most scrutinized position in all of sports, especially with the parity in the NFL. So I don't have anything personal against Jake Moody. I don't know the guy, but he wasn't getting the job done, and now he's looking for a job, and that's how it works.
And you know what? It's whether it's there or any other position in the quote unquote real world, that's what happens. It's all based on results, but even more so in sports, because that's wins and losses, and you're affecting paychecks, and like you can't have Jake Moody out there missing field goals that he's supposed to make, because that's going to affect everybody on the team and what happens to them. If this team goes through a 6-11 or 7-10 season, that's not just Jake Moody who's going to lose a job.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the harsh reality of the situation. So, but again, if you're reading those comments today, I urge you to read the whole gist of it, not just the one everybody's throwing out. No, I'm sure it was not a hard decision for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they knew going into the season that that was a possibility, which is why they had Greg Joseph in camp. I love the fact, A, because he's a Gator, and B, because he's, the fourth most accurate kicker in NFL history. This is a team that has a very finite margin for error. If they stay healthy, we know they are one of the most talented teams. Some would argue the most talented team in the NFL.
Well, and with that margin of error, I mean, 1, 2 points, 3 points, a kick. I mean, that's your difference there, right? Think about all the games that are decided by one possession. Yeah. So, the Niners did what they had to do. Like you said, no offense to Jake. You know what? The best thing that would happen is Jake Moody figures it out. He latches on somewhere else, and he's a hero again. That would be the best thing to happen. Everybody gets their thing. But for right now, if he's not getting the job done, the Niners don't have time. They don't. No, they just don't.
Not one bit whatsoever. Let's dive into some baseball, shall we? We got a couple finals from around the league earlier today as Texas swept Milwaukee. They remain hot 6-3. The A's walk off the Red Sox and rolled this Chapman 5-4. If only Vegas Mac was here tonight. The Diamondbacks knocked off the Giants 5-3. The Angels beat the Twins 4-3. We've got games in action right now, but we're going to talk wild cards because these wild card races, T, are getting pretty interesting. And we debuted trust issues last night for the first time, and tonight we're going to do a little bonus edition of trust issues when it comes to the wild cards in both the American and National League, which are very, very interesting races, still very tight as we get down the stretch here. So I'll let you start in the American League. Give me chasing or current wild card team or teams that give you the most question marks.
Man, it's the Mariners and the Rangers. The Rangers are these two teams, although I think the Mariners are 9 over 500, the Rangers are 7, but these teams have just been up and down so much this season. I have a little bit more faith in the Rangers because their pitching is really good. But with Seattle, they're supposed to have good pitching. Like that's what this team is all been. The whole problem with Seattle has been they've never had the offense. And you've got Big Dumper over here doing his part, hitting 50 home runs plus out of nowhere seemingly. And now the pitching is starting to let them down. Right now Seattle's in that third spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they fall out really quickly because of just they're up and down. What are they in their last 10? I believe they're like 3-7 or something
Seattle?
like that. Seattle?
5-5.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So they're 5-5 in their last. The Rangers are 7-3. So they're making up ground. Seattle's got it's just I don't understand what's happening in Seattle. They seem to have all the like Wu is great, and they got Kirby and they got Castillo. And you've got offensive players that go up there and all of a sudden they just forget how to play offense.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you've got the Rangers. They're headed to New York to take on the Mets in their next series. Seattle, I believe, hosts the Angels, who are hanging on by a thread and a prayer right now. But the Angels would love nothing more than to do damage to Seattle's chances there. For me, when I look at this, if we look at the American League East, you've got Toronto with a 3-game lead. The Yankees are in progress right now. Last I saw, the bases were loaded for the Tigers in the top of the 5th in a 0-0 game. I mentioned the Red Sox getting walked off by the A's. Aroldis Chapman hadn't given up a hit to anybody in his last 50 batters he faced. And then Shea Bangaliers, show favorite, comes up to start the 9th inning after the Red Sox tied the game. He gets a hit. Brent Rooker plays situational baseball, moves him over, and then Lawrence Butler is able to knock him in. So, when I look at the American League, for me, it's both AL East teams that concern me the most, the Yankees and the Red Sox, because, both of them are, and again, if you follow all of us individually on Twitter, you would have seen it this weekend with Mac down at the ballpark. I mean, this Red Sox team defensively, they are bad. The Yankees
are a mess.
They're worse, believe it or not. Right now, the Tigers up 2-0 on the Yankees in the bottom of the 5th. Flaherty still in for the Tigers. He has Chisholm at the plate right now. But I have the most questions of those two teams. Here's another thing, too, is we haven't really talked about them because of the ownership, the dipshit ownership of John Fisher in the A's. And we've one of our followers nicknamed them, aptly so, the Western Sacramento Nomads this year. RJ the computer geek, shout out RJ. Great line from Dallas Braden on the broadcast today. Chapman fought the law and the law dog won. And this A's team, when I looked at their remaining schedule, and this is one of the better teams in baseball when you get into the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning and clawing games out and coming back. They play Cincinnati, Boston again, Houston, and Kansas City. They also play Pittsburgh, but obviously Pittsburgh's not a factor here. But Cincy is coming to Sacramento. Then they go to Boston, and then they have Houston and Kansas City at the end. We're talking about 4 teams directly involved in chases, with the Reds maybe being the team that, quote unquote, is the farthest out. And we'll talk about the National League here in a second. This A's team is going to be a pain in the ass to these teams fighting for playoff positioning at the end.
Well, this A's team, I think, is very underrated. I think they're making the best out of a crap situation. I can't help but wonder if this team was playing in a major league facility, if they would be a little bit better and maybe more in the race. Because I love Rooker, I love Bangaliers. They have the personnel. I didn't like that they got rid of Mason Miller, but they had to do what they had to do. Nick Kurtz is a star in the making. And so there's and Lawrence Butler. There's your core on offense right there.
Well, and Jacob Wilson too.
There's 5. I mean,
yeah.
Most teams would kill to have 5, knowing that there's a solid 5 right there in the middle of your lineup.
Yeah, and it's funny because it seems like Nicholas Kurtz has taken the AL Rookie of the Year from Jacob Wilson, and but the question always lies with the Athletics is how long are those guys going to be in green and gold or whatever the hell color scheme after they stop playing with Tonka trucks and moving dirt around in Las Vegas to make us think that they're actually doing something. It's, and again, this weekend, Yankees, Red Sox, I hammer Major League Baseball for the way they do their schedule quite a bit. But this weekend, you've got Yankees, Red Sox, and you've also got Dodgers, Giants. And again, we're going to get to the National League here in just a second, but you got a tight race at the top between Toronto and Detroit for that number 1 spot, separated by basically percentage points at this point. Houston still a distant third to them, 5 games back. And Houston, 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've lost 2 in a row. They're up in Toronto right now. I made the comment a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago or so, that when I sit here and I look at all these teams and who I think is going to actually make it to the postseason, I think we could be looking at one of the higher scoring postseasons we've ever seen, because every single team that's in the mix here, I have gigantic questions about their pitching staffs. And we know Aroldis Chapman's been really good for the Red Sox, but I don't think anybody else that's watched the Red Sox would say that their bullpen really you don't fear anybody there. Yes, you can get to Chapman, and that's usually money. Yeah, today he slipped up. He was bound to at some point. But when you look at all these playoff teams, man, like, there's not one hands down solid pitching staff out there. We might be headed at over Central in the Major League Baseball playoffs, which is not a bad thing for me and you.
No, I mean, the one of the few teams that I do trust is the one that I just mentioned, the Texas Rangers. If they can get their staff lined up, they'll, in a short series, they have a really good chance here. But yeah, nobody scares me. But if I'm in another American League team, I'd be in the same. I mean, like, I'm not really scared. I'll take my chances going up against the Red Sox, or I'll take my chances going up against the Yankees. The Blue Jays have had pretty good pitching, but every now and then Bassett or Gossman has a subpar game. In a short series, you can't have bad games. You have to throw 2 or 3 gems and try and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think enough people are. We talk about manager of the year. I think it's a no-brainer in the National League. It's going to be Pat Murphy. With that payroll and what that team's done this year, it would be a crime if it's not Pat Murphy. I honestly think in the American League, your manager of the year is probably Bruce Bochy. with what he's
Probably.
been able to do with all the injuries that they've dealt with, and that this team is, again, Bruce Bochy coming down the stretch with a team that's clicking is a dangerous thing, especially when it gets to October on the calendar, and we know that. I think Boch has done a ridiculously good job in Texas, and Giants
Mhm.
fans out there that think that there might be some way that Buster Posey brings Bruce Bochy back to San Francisco, stop. It's
Not a
not going to
chance.
happen. You think Texas is going to allow that to happen? Hell no. Let's talk about the National League for a second here. Give me a team in the National League you got trust issues with.
Same team that's been all season long, the San Diego Padres. I know I rail on the Dodgers quite often, and deservedly so, because they are not doing themselves any favors at all, period, end of story. But neither are the Padres. The Padres have been all talk and no action. They're still trying to live off that series win against the Dodgers a couple of years ago. But it's with this veteran laden team and making all the tread. I mean, they acquired pretty much every Baltimore Oriole that was available except for Cedric Mullins. They made the acquisition of Mason Miller to shore up the bullpen, and yet this team still finds themselves two back in the NL West. But they need, with all their ownership issues now, and look, Petco is a party. It is an
Yeah.
absolute circus in a great way, that environment. But if you're not going to win series, you're not going to advance in the postseason. People are going to get tired of paying money to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you bring up the Padres because we were just talking about pitching staffs that we don't have a whole lot of trust in. And the only guy I trust for the Padres when it comes to throwing a baseball right now from the starter's mound is the guy who's on the mound for them tonight against Cincinnati, and that's Nick Pivetta. I mean, outside of that, the Padres have nothing but question marks. And then when you go into the offseason with the ownership questions, what are you going to do with Michael King? What are you going to do with Dylan Cease? Java Joe Musgrove when he's back healthy. I mean, there's a lot of question marks not only right now for the Padres, but going forward for the Padres. For me, it's the San Francisco Giants. And I need Roger Daltrey for this, but who are you? Like, who in the hell are you? Like, where was this all damn season long? And we know baseball is an absolute stab your eyeball out kind of marathon at times, and teams go through rough patches and good patches. Giants have been the hottest team in baseball outside of Texas for the better part of the last 3 weeks. Why? Because they're hitting. Again, I don't think the Giants, if they were to make it to the postseason, which I still don't think they will, I don't think they're long for the wear, because outside of Robbie Ray and Logan Webb, you've got question mark, question mark, question mark. On top of that, if your hitting decides to go ice cold, like it kind of did today when they dropped the finale against the Diamondbacks, you can have Robbie Ray and you can have Logan Webb, and you can still lose games because you can't score enough runs for those guys. And ironically, depending on what happens with the Mets, who, again, like I said, the Phillies' magic number going into tonight, I believe was 9, and they have a 9-game lead. And last I checked, Philly was up 4-0. So there's a possibility that the Mets could slide all the way out. There's a possibility that the Padres could somehow, some way slide out. They've got a little more clearance. The Giants are right up the Mets' ass right now, 2.5 games. But here's the predicament for the Giants. It's good and it's bad. They have 7 with the Dodgers starting this weekend. Then I think so they went Arizona today, if I remember the schedule correctly. Then they have the Dodgers this weekend. Then they're here in Arizona, and then they're back against the Dodgers after that. Now, the good news, if you're the Giants, if you can be in a position to finish the season, your last 6 games are against Colorado and St. Louis. And the flip side of that, somebody would go, well, St. Louis is still kind of in the race. They still kind of are. They're 2 games behind the Giants, but they'd have to jump the Diamondbacks and the Reds and the Giants and the Mets basically to steal that last spot. So there's a lot more work to do for St. Louis. And I don't really think any of us are fearing St. Louis making it a run like that down the stretch.
Not a chance.
They're in Seattle tonight. I don't have their schedule directly up. Then they have the Brewers after that. Then they play the Reds. So they're going to have to really get hot and stay hot if they want to make it. So I think when we look at the National League, I mean, it's clear the Cubs are they're gonna get to their spot. Whoever gets that last wild card spot is going to match up with I believe it would be the Dodgers.
Yep.
So, I mean, theoretically, we could be looking at a first round of the postseason. Astros, Mariners, Yankees, Red Sox, Giants, Dodgers. Those would be three of your wild card series, if you will. I think we're safe to say that the Cubs are in. They have a 6-game cushion over the teams below the line. A team in Chicago that I thought was going to run away with that division. And, I think they're playing a little bit better now. Their run differential at 100 and plus 119 is only outdone by the team they can't catch right now, Milwaukee, 167, and the Yankees at 130. So, Chicago's an interesting team because if they put it together, and they're getting some really good years out of a couple of their pitchers that nobody expected. If they put it together, they could be the most dangerous team in the National League. Because I don't trust the Brewers' power enough to carry them through a postseason.
Yeah, but it's all going to be matchups. You know this. It's all going to be who you wind up with. I mean, I don't think either one of us would be surprised if the Mets or the Padres both, or even both, miracle happens, they both slide out. I don't think either one of us would be surprised at this point, but it's going to be all matchups. It's going to be matchups for these teams. And the team that I think has the most to lose right now in this whole thing is the Dodgers, because I think the Dodgers are very beatable, if not sweepable, in a best of 3. I don't know if they're playing their best. I know for a fact they're not playing their best baseball, but they haven't been playing their best baseball for a while now. And if it happens for 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, yeah, it's a 6-month season. That's probably going to happen. But this has been going on basically since mid-July at this point. And so something's got to give here.
Yeah, I bet you can't guess with the matchups that I alluded to this weekend. I know you're going to have some more baseball thoughts on our social channels tomorrow at Mike Arana Show. Everywhere but Snapchat. Why are we not on Snapchat, T, for those joining us for the first time?
That would be because Snapchat sucks and we're not 12.
Bet you can't guess who the Sunday Night Baseball matchup is this weekend on ESPN.
Let's see. I'm going to guess Yankees, Red Sox.
You would be correct. It is Mac's favorite pitcher for the Yankees, Tubada, against Garrett Crochet. I'm not hating on that. I mean, it's Yankees, Red Sox, but for the love of God, should we just rename it the AL East Sports Programming Network? Because it seems like, well, it doesn't matter who's playing, what else is going on. We're going to jam Yankees, Red Sox down your throat.
And Apple TV is going to jam it down our throats on Friday, too. So, it's...
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think the first game of the Giants-Dodgers series is on Apple TV Friday night. I think.
I will probably be 3 deep or 4 deep at that point, and I'll just be looking for something.
Come on, computer. Work with me here.
I don't know. It's going to be, or I'll try to find the Oasis show in Mexico City to rip off of somebody. But yeah, I mean, this is that time, right? And it's really like, I have a buddy who's a big Padres fan, and he's like, "Oh, we're going to be fine." I'm like, "Yeah, but are you? Is your team going to be fine?" Because I don't think they are right now. I don't have any trust in this team at all whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a fair assessment that is somewhat universal at this point. Let's go into college football. We've got some interesting stuff this weekend. Obviously, we'll have a couple of games previewed for you. Alabama, Wisconsin will be the Big Mac kickoff Friday night on our social channels. I have South Florida and Miami, and TJ After Dark will have Notre Dame and Texas A&M. So looking away from some of those games, we are going to talk about Bama and Wisco because that's Mac's game, and he's not here, so we can talk about it. But let's start in Death Valley. For one of the more entertaining matchups every time these two teams play. Florida coming off of the embarrassing loss at home to South Florida. But how embarrassing was it? We'll find out this week. Interesting when you look at this, but anytime these two teams play, it is an absolute battle. They play usually fairly close games. They're physicals all get out. Depending on who you talk to, the series is tied, or Florida is winning the series 34-31-3 because of vacated wins, because we're all just supposed to go like Men in Black and it never freaking happened. Yeah. So, when we look at this, I think there's two parts to this when I really analyze it. LSU, as you know, I picked Garrett Nussmeier to win the Heisman. Their offense has looked a little disjointed so far. They're 86, I should say. Get the words out of your mouth, numbnuts. They're 86 in the FBS in total offense, 360 yards a game, 241 through the air, 118 on the ground. They're 108th in scoring at 20 points a game. Why are they in this position? Well, they're only giving up 207.5 yards a game, which is 11th in the FBS. They're only allowing 44.5 rushing yards a game, which is 7th in the FBS. Florida's offense kind of disjointed as well. They're putting up decent numbers, but this is going to be a game that comes down, like it usually does between these two teams, to time of possession and turnovers. There's always some big play, it seems like, in the middle of the third quarter. Every now and then there's a shoe thrown for a personal foul penalty. We're not going to get into all that mess, but these two teams, no matter what the situation is for either one of them, seem to always give us a thriller. What's something that you look at when you take a look at Florida and LSU under the lights in Death Valley with Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler on the call, I believe?
Yes, and Peter, the golden retriever, will probably be there too. Look, I don't think Florida is as I think they've kind of done. They reached that peak of this season, and then they hit the valley of this season. I think where they're at, I think they're somewhere in the middle there. I don't think they're nearly as bad as last week. Like you said, who knows how bad? Maybe South Florida is really, really good this year. Who knows? But I don't think that Florida. I know for sure that they haven't played their best football, and I'm expecting their best effort. And you've talked about this before, Mike. Florida's schedule is absolutely ridiculous. And the next four are just a start. I mean, you can go right through the list, and so they are going to need Herculean efforts every week to stay in games. But I mean, it's LSU. It's a big rival. They want to make a statement that says that, hey, this is not the same team that lost at the Swamp last week. We're way better than that. LSU, I've been pretty impressed with LSU. I'm not going to lie about that. I didn't think they were going to win their first game against the Tigers, and they wound up pulling it off. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about Clemson later on and what's going on there, but this is going to be huge. You got Florida going into a very hostile environment. I expect DJ Lagway to have his best game of the season so far. He's going to have to. This team needs to. If they want to stay in the SEC race, they're going to have to just play their hearts out every week, and that's got to start Saturday.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think that the underlying thing in this matchup is part of the reason that LSU's offense, when I called them disjointed, was because they're not really getting much out of the running game. Garrett Nussmeier, and this is why I believe he's still my front runner to win the Heisman, has been able to kind of carry them. The Gators' defensive front should be able to slow down their poor running game. My issue is, how will the Gators' front handle that defensive line for LSU, which might be the best unit in the country? And I'm gonna give you a couple names and a couple of numbers here. Urban Meyer, 31-9. Will Muschamp, 24-16. Dan Mullen, 31-9. Jim McElwain, 22-12. Those were the records of the guys in their first 40 games at Florida. Now, if you did the math right, you figured out that Jim McElwain never got to game 40 at Florida, being 22-12. He was fired. Billy Napier's 20-20. And I like Billy Napier. I really do. I think Billy Napier is a guy that is a program builder. But the reality of the fact of the matter is, at Florida, you're judged on winning. That is a fan base. That is a school that wants to win championships, and they want to get back to where they once were. And as we said on the top with Jake Moody, it's a business, and you're directly impacted by wins and losses. Last year, the irony here, T, is where, and I mentioned this on last night's show, where Billy Napier started to get credit built in the bank was when they beat LSU 27-16. And
that was a great win.
Yeah, and before that, LSU had kind of dominated the series. Just ask Dan Mullen. Billy Napier lost all that. And again, they didn't play horrible against USF. They had a couple touchdowns called back. They had to. I never want to see Trey Smack on the field as a Gator fan as much as I have in the first couple of games. You can't settle for field goals. And in this part of the schedule that we've talked about, you really can't settle for field goals here. So let's put a prediction down on the table here. I'll let you start. Florida LSU, what do you got?
Oh, man, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to take the under in this game. I'm going to go under 47.5. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle. I like what LSU has done. I mean, the game against Clemson was really good, but I just think that this game is going to be. I think last week they were looking ahead a little bit. LSU was. Maybe Florida was too. I don't know. But I think this is going to be a really big defensive game. So I'm going to go under on this.
I am going to actually lay the number with LSU. I'm interested to see how this Gator team bounces back. A quick way to snap out of it for the Gators all season is going to be you don't have time to lament over what happened last week because of that schedule. I do think that defensive front, in what I've seen out of the Gator offensive line, even back to the opening game against Long Island, that they dominated. Mm-hmm. There's some stuff going on that offensive line that I'm not super thrilled about. I don't like that the number's at 7.5. I would obviously like it a lot better at 6.5. But I can see that defensive line getting loose and getting through late in the game and scoop and score or something like that. So I'm going to lay the number with the Tigers. Go Tigers.
Well, let me ask you a question really quick. If Florida gets blown out, does Billy Napier get blown out?
I don't think so. I know that's what the fan base will want. I mean, hell, they were chanting "Fire Billy" down the concourse after the game the other day. I don't think so because of what's still to come on the Gator schedule. I think if he's going to get blown out, it doesn't make any sense to blow him out now. I mean, your biggest concern if you're the higher ups at Florida is making sure you don't lose DJ Lagway, because you're talking about a kid who one more year under his belt with the right coaching staff, if it does change, is probably one of the better quarterbacks in the country, I believe. So I think it's a tricky spot. Let's move on. Wisco paying off the second half of the home and home with Alabama. Ryan Williams is expected to play for the Tide last week. Obviously, no pressure or push from UL Monroe as the Tide won 73-0. Interesting from Wisconsin here. And I'm going to say this just to, not put any drama in where I'm going. I think Alabama is going to absolutely slap the piss out of Wisconsin this weekend, especially with Ryan Williams coming back. Wait, I do like Wisco's quarterback, though, man. Their sophomore quarterback, Danny O'Neal, he made his first start for the Badgers last week, and they started slow, but he threw for 283 yards, which was the most for any Badgers quarterback in their first start with the team. It might have been, I'm kidding, obviously. I had to kind of double check what I was reading that earlier. I'm like, hell, has there ever been a Wisconsin quarterback that threw for 283 yards in the game? Because that's not the way they like to play.
No.
I think this is a big mismatch here. And if we remember last year, and Alabama struggled on the road last year, they went to Wisco and they beat the hell out of them 42-10. So this total is interesting. I think there's some play on the total, but I am not going to hesitate to lay the number with the Tide.
I completely agree with you. I think this is Alabama needs a convincing win. Florida State was an absolute debacle. You played last week against ULM and you did what you were supposed to do to ULM. So now you got Wisconsin, you got Georgia in 2 weeks. You need to just leave it all out there on the field and just blow out a P4 team, even if it's Wisconsin. I mean, I don't think Wisconsin is as good. They might be better than maybe one other team that's left on their schedule. Well, they're probably better than Eastern Illinois, but other than that, Alabama's got to blow them out. They have to blow them out. I think that DeBoer is. You talk about Napier losing all the goodwill. I think DeBoer is in the same situation. I think this guy's playing for his job week to week at this point.
Yeah, and again, there's a standard of excellence. I mean, call it fair or unfair. I mean, he's the one that took the job, and you're following one of the greatest to ever do it in Nick Saban. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch there. I'm hoping that Ryan Williams doesn't have any side effects from the concussion, because the people that haven't really paid attention to Ryan Williams, I mean, he's right up there with Jeremiah Smith. You're talking about a Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson kind of thing. That's how I view those two guys. They're hands down the two best receivers in all of college football. And Ryan Williams, had to leave that game against Florida State. He's expected to play, as we said. And I think this is a good matchup for Ty Simpson and Ryan Williams to get it going and get loose and open it up out there. Clemson, number 12, is on the road at 2-0 Georgia Tech. What do we make out of Tech? What do we make out of Clemson at this point? And I think they're kind of hard to get a read out of. This is the 90th meeting between these two teams, and it kicks off ACC play for both of them. But the Tigers going to Atlanta, and that's not an easy place to play.
No.
Kickoff set for noon. I believe that's noon Eastern at Bobby Dodd Stadium, which has been kind of a tough place for a lot of teams to play. I'm really interested to see how this goes. Haynes King is questionable right now with that lower body injury from the opener. That obviously impacts this game tremendously, but I haven't gotten a good read on a team in Clemson, that a lot of people expected big things out of. And, I mean, they lost to LSU, the third-ranked team in the country, who's, defensively extremely elite. So I don't know if we can put a whole lot of stock into that. Can the Tigers get rolling here is the question.
Well, that's 100% the question. And I was really concerned last week on checking scores, and they're losing to Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you serious that's what's happening right now? Georgia Tech statistically is better in every single offensive category. Yeah, I know that Clemson played LSU, and that's a huge deal. And Georgia Tech played Gardner Webb, who's, I think we could probably get 11 guys who follow this show and beat Gardner Webb. But this is a big spot. I said in our conversation before, I think this is a must win for Clemson. It is a must win. They have to go into Atlanta and win this game. Otherwise, I think they're done. And I know that's crazy to think after week 3, but if you're 1-2 and you're already down in the ACC, I don't see how you come back from that.
No, and that's a very valid point here, because when you look at Clemson's schedule after this, they play a Syracuse team that's probably still running sprints from last weekend. Then they play Belichick's North Carolina squad. That ain't going to help them in the eyes of anybody that's positioning college football playoff teams. Then they play Boston College. They really don't have another tough game, or a game that's going to kind of help them on their schedule, until 4 weeks from now when they play SMU, and then 2 weeks after that where they play Florida State. And they also finish with the team we're going to talk about next here in South Carolina. When it comes down to having to pick a side on this one, the Haynes King injury concerns me. And if he does play, is he at 100%? And on the other side, you have Cade Klubnik, who, should be just waiting to bust out. There's too many variables here. Mm-hmm. The number as of this morning was still a short number. Right before we got on the show, I double checked it again. It is still Clemson -3 in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take the Tigers to cover the 3, just because if Haynes King was playing for sure, and we knew he was healthy, I'd be a lot more on Georgia Tech on the money line here. I just can't take the chance.
100% agree. It's time that Cade Klubnik that was my pick. That was my guy for the Heisman this year, and he's done nothing but play himself right out of contention. I'm with you. I think this is an under game if Haynes King does not play. If Haynes King does play, I'm with you. I would take Georgia Tech on the money line, but right now I think it's an under.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The final game we're going to look at on the college side before we get into some of our favorites on the NFL slate this weekend. And this game is not going to be talked about. This game is going to fly under the radar, but I think this game is going to be an absolute war from Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. You've got Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia going into town to take on the now 11th ranked South Carolina Gamecocks, and Shane Beamer continues to very quietly build a monster, and it helps when you have a guy who is in the forefront of the Heisman conversation, one of the more dynamic quarterbacks in all of the land, in Lenore Sellers. This game, and it's tough because of where it's at on the schedule. I think for us left coasters, if I remember correctly, it's a 4:45 start. So you've got LSU. I mean, thank God for multi-view in this situation, but you've got LSU, Florida. You've got Texas A&M, Notre Dame. I think a lot of people that don't have that option or are going to zero in on their own team are probably not going to watch this game. But I'm telling you right now, if you get a chance to watch this game, this is a game that you really, really want to watch. I think the key matchup here for me is Diego Pavia against the defense of the Gamecocks.
Well, there's a reason why I booked an early family dinner reservation on Saturday, and that's because of this game. We saw what Vanderbilt did last year. They were unbelievable story. I love watching Diego Pavia play. He thinks that the Commodores are going to run Tennessee within a few years. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far at this point, but a statement win by Vanderbilt here would certainly help convince me that they're going to continue this run. But yes, Lenore Sellers he's a beast. I love watching him play. This game's on the SEC network, and I'm really bummed because, like you said, it's a good thing for multi-view. Otherwise, I don't know if I could, my channel goes that high. I don't know, it's 600, 700. I don't know where it is. I'm sure I'll find it. But this is going to be a great game in Columbia.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that's been concerning for me, and it's early in the season, and we know how this works, but I saw it a lot in the Virginia Tech game for South Carolina. I saw it a lot at a concerning level in the South Carolina State game for the Gamecocks. They have been horrible on offense and defense on third downs this year. And again, we're only in our third game here, but Virginia Tech was able to stay in that kickoff classic game against them a lot longer than I think they probably belonged in the game because of the way that South Carolina has been on third downs on both sides of the ball. And that's something that if South Carolina really, really, really wants to be in the mix and get people to believe their hype train, if you will, they've got to be way better on third downs. That being said, Williams-Brice is a pain in the ass to play in, especially when Sandstorm gets going, as we all know. The number is short, and I don't think it's very respectful of the... And we don't make numbers based on potential, so don't take this the wrong way. But I think the short number of 4 there is enough to make me think that South Carolina can cover that one, and I think they might do it pretty easy.
You know who's really good on third down this year? Vanderbilt, fifth in the nation on offense on third down. Excuse me. I got so choked up about that. I don't know why. Like Diego Pavia, I'm like having New Mexico State flashbacks. It's hard, Mike, because it is week 3. And when you look at some of these schedules, like Wisco played Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee plays Nevada this week. So, say what you will. Gardner-Webb has been an opponent. ULM. We're talking about not the greatest competition here. But for a team to convert better than 2 out of 3 of their third downs is huge. I'm taking the over in this game. I'm going to go over the number here. I'm going to not take a side just yet. I do like the fact that this number has dropped to 4, I believe it is the last time I saw it.
Yeah, it's 4
I believe
right
it
now.
started at 8.5 or 6.5. It started pretty high. So, but I'm going to run the over on this. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, and your point on the early season schedules is dead on the money. Like next week is when we start to get, and again, say what you want about this one, but I'll start with a couple of these matchups next week. You got the Civil War, Oregon State at Oregon. Now, Oregon's probably going to blow them out, but that's a rivalry game, and we never know what can happen.
Never know.
Florida, continuing their schedule, they're at Miami. Illinois at Indiana. South Carolina at Mizzou. You've got an unranked game between Arizona State and Baylor that I think will be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech and Utah. Again, a lot of people still falling asleep on both of those teams. That's going to be a good one. Early kickoff on that one on the West Coast, 9 a.m. at Rice Eccles in Salt Lake City.
Get them 3-2 beers in you early.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go later in the day, you've got Auburn, Oklahoma. Michigan's at Nebraska. And, so we're starting next week is when we start to kind of get some better games all the way throughout the day. Michigan State and USC playing at freaking 11 o'clock Eastern for Michigan State. Somebody posted this on X when this game time was announced, and I thought it was perfect. Hey, USC, you came to our conference. Your asses are kicking this game off at 5 o'clock. I mean, why? I don't understand the catering there. I understand the nighttime schedule, and there's some definite holes in the nighttime schedule. But we, and then after that, week 5 is where we really start, to get the good games in there. And when you've got full conference play going and stuff like that. So I think it's an excellent point there. Let's look at the NFL, the National Football League in week 2.
Where they play for less pay.
Yeah, right. We kind of highlighted 4 games that we had eyeballs on that are intriguing to us. One of these that we'll start with is Danny Dimes and the Indianapolis Colts. They're hosting the Denver Broncos, who did not look great against Tennessee. But again, in week 1, what did we really learn? Recency bias here, whatever the case may be. The line is dropped to 1.5. It opened at, I believe it was 3. I got it, and I put it in my blog on Tuesday morning. I took the Colts plus 2.5 here. I still think Denver is a good team. I think they're going to get it figured out, but I also think we need to remember with Bo Nix, it is year 2. And we saw what happened to C.J. Stroud in year 2. The difference is Bo Nix's defense in Denver is going to keep them in a lot of games and help win them a lot of games, whereas Stroud's defense was still pretty young, pretty banged up for the most part. And obviously, Denver's offensive line is way better than Houston's was. That being said, I really, really am looking forward to this one, especially since my day will start with Mac Jones against Spencer Rattler at 10 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. This is an afternoon kickoff, which should be interesting, but I think this is one of the better, more underrated games on the schedule, and also probably a high product of that recency bias.
Well, yeah, I mean, on one side you got the Danny Dimes Redemption Tour continuing, but yeah, I'm bullish on this Bronco team. I think they're going to win. I think they have a really good chance to win the division. I picked them to win the division. I do think they will figure it out. But what you say about Bo Nix is 100% accurate. It is year 2. And what usually happens is you see a little bit of a downward slide in year 2 because the league is figuring him out. So it's up to Sean Payton to help put Bo Nix in the positions that he's going to succeed in. The offense for Denver was not that impressive in week 1, in my opinion. I thought they had a game where they should have blown Tennessee right out. They didn't. But this is definitely a winnable game for the Broncos.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. And, Denver, I think the biggest thing that kind of hurt them against Tennessee last week was for a team that's got a lot of talent and a lot of talent that I think is underrated in the backfield. They didn't really run the ball a ton. And, they put enough plays together to get the job done. Wins are wins. We talk about that all the time.
Never apologize.
I think Denver's got to try and run the ball a little bit more, and that's not an easy thing to do on this Colts defense. Like, I think this game is going to be a really, really good one. I've already given you my pick, obviously. I took the Colts at plus 2.5. It is down to 1.5 now. What do you got in Colts Broncos?
I think I'm going to take the over in this game. I think Bo Nix is going to figure it out, and I think him and Danny Dimes are going to go tit for tat here. So I'm going to go over on this one. Plus, it's at the house that Peyton built, so it's a favorable climate there.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the game that's going to take most of the headlines this weekend. Not surprised. Again, something I think the NFL should put into the schedule every single year, no matter what. Make the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl play each other the next season. And that's the Eagles looking to put the Chiefs in an 0-2 hole to start their season in Kansas City. where the Eagles are the favorite here. They're a 1.5-point favorite, over under at 46.5. The Chiefs, speaking of looking disjointed, looked very disjointed in week one. Put whatever stock into that you want. They were playing in freaking Brazil.
Yeah, that's when are we going to just stop this nonsense? Holy smokes.
Well, they can't do it next year because of the Sports Broadcasting Act, because Labor Day is later, so they're not allowed to play a Friday kickoff game. That doesn't mean that they won't try and farm off a game to Brazil. But, you know, there's part of me that goes, am I really, really going to back a coach and a team, mainly the coach, that I had a hard time backing last year until they went into New Orleans and beat the living hell out of the Chiefs in Nick Sirianni and his Eagles? The other part of me says, am I really going to back them on the road, knowing that the Chiefs would start the season 0-2 and Mahomes is an underdog at home?
Mm-hmm.
I literally don't know at this point. I didn't like what I saw out of Kansas City's offense. Xavier Worthy got dinged up pretty early on that crossing pattern where him and Kelsey kind of ran into each other. It's. But then again, I come back to it. Mahomes as an underdog in his career, 11-4 straight up, 12-2-1 against the spread. Now, obviously, if you're going to back the Chiefs in this game, why wouldn't you take them at plus 105? You're not going to take the 1.5. It really doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
I honestly think, and this will back kind of what I said and what I thought when we did our preview show, I still do think that the Chiefs win this division. But I also kind of hinted and indicated that I wouldn't be surprised if they dealt with some early season adversity. Mm-hmm. And I think they get a second helping of adversity here, because I'm taking the Eagles minus 1.5.
I thought that the Eagles, for lack of a better term, dicked around with the Cowboys too much on Thursday night. And it could have been just the moment, right? Because you won the title, you're first, and all the eyes in the country are on you. And then with the delays and stuff, I think that kind of ruined the momentum of the game. But my Chiefs fatigue is at an all-time high right now. And nothing would please me more than for Philadelphia to just go in there and just whoop their asses. But I don't think that's going to happen, because it stinks, but I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes at home just yet.
Right.
He's got too much of a track record. I mean, I don't know. Kelsey and Worthy may never, ever, ever, ever get back together, but the Chiefs are what they are, right? We are who we thought they.
Yep.
And I love that. I still like them at home. I'm taking the Chiefs on the money line, as much as it pains me in this one. But I think adversity, yes. But remember, this is quite a long season, and after this, the Chiefs have the Giants, and then they have the Ravens. So they're going to get a whole September's worth of adversity out of this. But I think they pull this off. Is this the week? No, I don't think this is going to be the week.
Well, and they, let's call a spade, because I've seen this kind of floating around a lot this week as we lead into this game. They lost 27-21, and I think a lot of people are talking about it like the Chargers just beat the living hell out of Kansas City. It was a 6-point game. Great game from Hollywood Brown, 10 catches, 99 yards. Great game from Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 catches on 55 yards. Hollywood Brown was targeted 16 times in that game. Now, again, the Eagles' defense, I would say, is better than the Chargers' defense. Mm-hmm. But again, what we saw in that first week out of the Eagles was the question mark for Eagles fans and Eagles personnel was the cornerback 2 spot. And CeeDee Lamb absolutely 1,000% abused their secondary. And if he could have caught a couple more balls, they would have been just fine. And Adoree Jackson, I think, is a guy that Andy Reid and the Chiefs staff is going to target here. And they've got guys with, Hollywood Brown and Juju and how they use Travis Kelce and all that stuff, that I think Adoree Jackson is going to be a guy that they target. And I wouldn't be shocked, and I wouldn't blame them for doing so.
No, I mean you got to do what you got to do, right? The Eagles also made that trade for Jacory and Bennett, and that I don't know if that's well, I know on the other side that's they're pretty happy about it, but yeah, the Chiefs and it goes back to like look, once again, my Chiefs fatigue is so high right now, it's not even a joke, but it's
What's
hard to
higher, your Chiefs fatigue or your Eagles fatigue?
ooh, my Eagles fatigue is like getting really close to it, no lie. But with the Chiefs, we've seen what Patrick Mahomes can do in these. I mean, he's in the 4 o'clock Eastern time slot, so most of the eyes of the country are going to be on him. They are
Mhm.
at home, so you know Arrowhead's going to be jacked, and he just performs as much. Look, you call it what it. He performs when the spotlight's on him. So yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if the Chiefs pull this out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another game that's, I think, going to be more interesting than people think, especially with what we saw on Monday night. It is the Sunday night game, the home opener for J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings as they take on Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons. This is a game that I think is going to be pretty entertaining. I think these are two teams that very easily could have flip-flopped records, going into this. You don't have to deal with Kirk Cousins in prime time. I think a lot of people were kind of hoping maybe it was going to be Kirk Cousins back
Mhm.
in Minnesota against the Vikings. But, Atlanta played, I thought, well last week. Obviously not well enough to win, but, when you're getting 100 yards receiving out of Bijan Robinson out of the backfield and damn near 300 yards out of Michael Penix, that's a big deal. Good news is that Drake London is not on the injury report anymore
Mhm.
for Atlanta. So it looks like he's going to be a go. I think this game is going to be really, really good. I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good too. I mean, luckily they don't have to go against Emeka Buka, but then, oh, by the way, here we got Justin Jefferson coming your way. So how do you like me now? Um, I thought the Falcons played well. I thought Penix's inexperience showed a little bit, especially in that sequence where with the penalty on fourth down in the fourth quarter, and then like it took him 7 or 8 plays to get it, and there was the slamming of the ball on the goal line and all that nonsense. But I think Penix learns from this.
Mm-hmm.
And look, this is his team. Unless he gets broken, it's his team. So I'm looking for a bounce back effort from the Falcons here. Both of these teams could be 1-0. Both of these teams could be 0-1. I'll tell you what, though, if JJ McCarthy waits till the fourth period to show up here, he's going to have a monster fourth period because they're going to be in a deep hole.
If you can't tell, TJ's our hockey guy on the program specifically. I mean, he does a lot of things
I'm
for us,
counting
but
down we're 4 weeks away. I can't wait.
it's right around the corner. And with our new format and our new show schedule this year, we're going to be able to talk about a lot of it all the way across the board in all the sports. I need to see it again from JJ McCarthy. I think your point on him needing to be a good quarterback before the fourth quarter is huge. Obviously, the crowd's going to be hyped. That was a win that I don't know if a lot of people in Minnesota were expecting to get last week in Chicago, and it took them a while to get it. I think the desperation here for Atlanta is kind of what speaks to me. And again, I thought they played a good game against the Bucks. But for Atlanta, they've lost their last 5 games if you go back to last year. More importantly for Atlanta, after they play this one, they do get the Panthers. But then they have the Commanders, the Bills, and they're at the 49ers for another Sunday night football game. That game against the 49ers is on October 19th, which should be, if you're a Niner fan, hopefully Brock Purdy will have been back by then. But that's like the second week that George Kittle would be eligible to come back as well. Niners might have Malik Mustafa by then. The Niners could also maybe, that'd be on the early side, but have Brandon Ayuk. So you're going through a 3-game stretch after you play the Panthers after this week's game where you've got Commanders, Bills, and Niners. Thankfully for Atlanta, 2 of those 3 games are at home.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a tough spot. And if Atlanta's going to do what everybody's thinking they're going to do and be able to wrestle the South away from the Bucks, they're already in an 0-1 hole against the Bucks. And that's not an easy start to the season. After that, it gets a lot easier. You got the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Panthers again, the Saints. I think this is a crucial game here for them to go into that Commanders game at 2-1. I am going to take the Falcons because it is over that joyous number of 3. So I'm taking the Falcons plus 3.5. Our final game here, part of our Monday night doubleheader. Pete Carroll makes his Raiders home debut against, no love lost, the Los Angeles Chargers of Southern California, but should be in San Diego in Southern California. Recency bias here. And I think it plays to both of these teams. You've got the Raiders, big win, Pete Carroll's first game. Geno Smith looked really, really good. They go into New England, they beat the Patriots. The Chargers, they go down to Brazil, and they beat the Chiefs in a game that they were in control of pretty much the whole game here. This line sitting right on the number you don't like at -3. Over-under is 46.5. I'm really interested to see the scene in Las Vegas. I think, and you can speak to this obviously a little bit better than I can, but I think from the Raider fans that I know outside of you, there's a lot of people excited for this, and I think the scene in Las Vegas is going to be really entertaining because I think there is a little bit of a palpable buzz amongst Raider Nation because you've got a competent, within his right mind head coach there. And I think going out and getting that win in the fashion that they did last weekend, you should be excited if you're a Raider fan.
I thought the defense played exceptionally well last week, holding New England to 13. A little bit concerned about Brock Bowers. Hopefully he'll be able to go. But I think Michael Mayer showed that he is a suitable backup to him. He had some clutch catches in that game against New England. But yeah, I mean, we've been waiting as Raider fans when Gruden came back. It was like, yes, this is it. You know, we're going to get the band back together, and that went in the toilet. And then once again, this is the 5th coach in the 6 seasons they've been in Las Vegas. This fan base is waiting to bust out. They are looking for every opportunity to get behind this team. You've seen also, I mean, when the Niners go in there, even a preseason game, it's 75-25 Niners. And I mean, the Niners travel well anyway, but it's quite embarrassing for Raider fans to see their home stadium on game day be full of opposing fans. I think a win here helps stop that trend. I mean, it is the Chargers who travel exceptionally well, but this is a division rivalry. You got first place on the line here. A 2-0 start would be incredible. It would be exactly what Pete Carroll's already said it. He said in the introductory presser back at the beginning of the year, he said, "Look, I've won 10 games a year in Seattle," and so he set the expectation that he expects this team to compete and win 10 games. So this is I wish it wasn't the second freaking game on Monday night, though. I wish it was the only game on Monday night because they deserve that. Both teams deserve that.
I'm trying to look up something for your other favorite school.
But here, I'm going to get this out of the way really quick. San Diego, there's $1 for the jar. San Diego, there's $1 for the jar. All right. I think I'm good there.
Palpable buzz in Vegas this weekend, especially because in that same building on Saturday, you have Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford fighting. And so you get the day off on Sunday. UNLV, I was looking to see if they were playing at home too this weekend. Not that anybody cares. But yeah, I think just the general buzz there, it does kind of suck that it is the second Monday night game. It's being preceded by Bucks Texans. That'll be the first Monday night game.
Pirate Monday night.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go and do the same thing I did last week on the spread. Maybe I'm tipping the hand of. I will have a special guest on Monday's picks, a guy that nobody's seen in a while, who I know will have some thoughts on this. But I'm taking the Raiders on the money line, man. I'm buying, and I think here's another part of this that I haven't really heard anybody talk about yet. I'm sure it'll get talked about on Sunday when like Countdown and the Fox pregame and stuff like that are on. I know they're going to talk about this on Monday Night Countdown. It's Harbaugh, it's Carroll, and that goes way, way, way back. Another interesting storyline on this game. I think that the buzz with the Raiders and the way Geno Smith played are two things that I'm really looking forward to seeing there. Injury wise, you mentioned Bowers. He's still questionable. For the Chargers, the only injury of any kind of significant note for them is their linebacker Denzel Perryman, who's also questionable with an ankle injury. So those would be two guys. Landon Roberts also questionable for the Chargers, or for the Raiders, I should say. Very interested, but I'm taking the Raiders on the money line. I think Pete's got something, and Pete Carroll, the way his teams in all of his new stops have gone, they come out of the gates very, very well. And I think this is another case where we see that with the Raiders. I'm taking the Raiders on the money line.
I think Pete said it great too this week when he was talking about Ashton Genty and talking about how Ashton Genty might have been caught up in the moment a little bit. Didn't have the best game there, had that touchdown, but I mean, he's averaged 2 yards per carry. I'm expecting a little bit more out of Ashton Genty this week, especially being at home. But the guy that I think that I would look out for, and my pick to click in this game, is Jacoby Myers. He's been through the ringer right now, and he's been the consummate pro. And the dude had 8 catches for 97 yards last week against New England. This is a guy who deserves to be paid like a number one receiver on a team. I'm also taking the Raiders on the money line, and that's no bias. I think I like what Pete's got here, and I think they're going to build on it. So I'm taking them this weekend.
And don't forget another thing, if you want additional storylines here in talking about Ashton Genty, that's a building that Ashton Genty is very, very, very familiar with and has had great success with. I know it's not the NFL, but I think for not only Pete Carroll, but for Raider Nation getting their first crack in a real game at seeing Ashton Genty in the home yard, I think that game's, again, I wish it was a standalone game. Nothing against the Texans Bucks. I think that'll be a fantastic game also. At least they gave us 2 what should be good games. Last year it seemed like every Monday night doubleheader, one of them sucked ass, and then the other one was pretty good. And while you're already diverting your attention between the two, you want to make sure you got 2 good games. And I think we got it this week. So tomorrow and Friday, the lunch power hour, as it will be all year long. It'll be me, and I'll have kind of some rotating guests. We'll set up Thursday night football. Friday, we'll recap Thursday night football. We'll look ahead to a couple more things on the college football slate. And then all 3 of us will be back in tow. Actually, you're off next Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So next Wednesday, you'll get all 3 of us back in tow here. But a lot of fun stuff coming on. Again, Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, 5:30 on the West Coast, 8:30 on the East Coast. Thursdays and Fridays, 11:30 a.m. to get you through that lunch power hour. Maybe those of you that are leaving work early on the East Coast, Friday, 2:30, popping it in the car.
Friday light.
You go handle your assignment. For everybody behind the scenes, for Vegas Mac, for TJ, I'm Mike. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We're out.